So I'm really super excited. This is the first album I've done in Project Life and just got it. It's 182 pages. I printed it through Blurb with the hardcover image wrap. So I just did one big picture with the title for the front, and then I picked another picture for the back page since I wasn't using Photoshop to go in and create them like I would normally do on my digital books. This is the 500-mile hike that I did across Spain with my 11-year-old last September and October. I shared some of the pages when I started, and then just life got in the way, but we are now celebrating 1 year since we left. And these other two gals are two ladies that we met on day one, and we spent the whole Camino with them. So they became what's called our Camino family. To keep this as simple as possible, I took my tablet with me on the Camino, and so I was actually scrapbooking as we were going along. So did a title page of the two sisters, myself and my daughter, and then my two sisters-in-law flew in the second half to join us. I did some of the before pages, some of the pages leading up to it. And then when we actually got started, the only consistency that I did besides having the black background the whole time was every day started with this particular journal card. And I'm super photo heavy. I love photos so much, especially on a journey like this when you're walking across the country and getting to see so many different sites and people and food and stuff. So once again, that same journal card, and I just started out with the day of the week and the date, and then which day it happened to be of our actual Camino itself. And it took us 33 days to cover the 500 miles. And then I finished each day with this particular journal card where I listed all of the expenses that we had for the day, and then if I had room, just a slight little recap about that evening. So we were actually gone, 7 weeks total. We had a few days leading up to it, and then after the book, we continued on with our vacation in Europe. So super excited to actually get this printed into a book. I'm sure my daughter's going to remember these things, but sometimes it's the little details. So I did pretty good about keeping a journal. Some days there's only 2 days or 2 pages rather of pictures for that particular day, depending on what was going on. And then others, there might be, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. I think I did up to 9 pages, depending on what happened in that particular day. There's actually a movie called The Way starring Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez. So as we were following along with this Camino, we were looking for the highlights in the movie and pointing it out and taking pictures there. So it was exciting considering that we had watched the movie, I don't know how many times. But yeah, it was super excited. We were leaving for Mexico in a couple days, so I wanted to get the book printed really fast. So I ordered it on the 9th and I received it today on the 17th, and I did the express fast shipping so I could make sure I would have it in time to take it down to Mexico so that my sisters-in-law can see it. But lots of different layouts. I stuck with one font for the cards. Sometimes if I wrote on the pictures themselves in the freeform, I would use a different, but I maybe have 7 or 8 fonts on there. I didn't do a ton of freeform text as far as getting fancy. I used a lot of the big eyes sideways so that I would have some room to, actually put some captions on the pictures. I didn't do a ton of cards to fill up the spaces. Randomly I would if I didn't have enough room, but I really focused on getting as many pictures and stories into this book as I possibly possibly could. I think maybe 2 pages I ended up doing in an outside app, and that was more because I wanted to use some memorabilia that we had gotten. For instance, like we went to a museum, and when I came home after the trip, I scanned it because I wanted to add in the brochure. So I had to manipulate that a little. I think I used Chimera to do a couple. Yeah, here I had to figure out a way to get these in here. So that was an outside the app. And I tried to do some of the picture in the pictures that learned just by watching everybody else and learning from them. I even did some Facebook pictures just because I hadn't taken the picture myself, and I went onto friends' Facebooks and downloaded them, and they actually turned out pretty good. When I uploaded all of these into Bookwrite on the computer to order it, I did get a warning that the image resolution was too small, but everything came out nice and crisp. I was worried about how the borders would look and if it would be cut off. So I did the template or the layout, I guess, with the one picture that's got a little border around it. And then I also colored the background pages black. So everything looks good. You can't tell the difference between the Project Life black and the Bookwrite black. But if you do open it, you can see a little glimpse of white in the spine there. But as you're flipping through it, no problem. I did what Jenna recommends, and I went through and every 3 pages, I laid it flat on the spine. So that definitely, oops, sorry about that. Just a bad day. But other than that, I love it. It took me a year to do 182 pages of a 7-week. This is actually 5 or 6 weeks of the vacation, but it turned out really well with just a variety of the templates and focusing on the important stuff. I did a lot of the pictures of the memorabilia as we had because I wasn't going to carry it on my back. So like if we got tickets, I did as somebody recommended, and I just laid it down on a table and took a picture of it, and then those worked perfect in the squares on a lot of the pages. And I was conscious as we were going along of what was important. So I took pictures of lots of things like receipts and stuff like that I would later use in my expense card, but I didn't focus on bringing any of those home. For instance, here's a receipt right there just to show, and I wrote, while I was there, I wrote down and said how much was a yogurt or crackers or whatnot, just to give an idea since we were eating in another country. And a lot of times people ask, well, how much was that and how much was this? But yeah, I love how it turned out. I did save the PDF as a book, so it was easier to share with friends and other families that were interested in doing this same journey. This was probably one of my favorites to create in the app and then bring back into another photo slot was the 3 pictures. But not tons of, if I did use the filler cards, I tended to write on them more than anything, or if it was something I needed to finish off the page. Lots of little overlays. So if you notice in the app, it looks like it has a white edge. So you can see it's a very, very tiny white edge. To be honest, it's not really that noticeable. Let's see, here's another one. So it's this tiny little white line there. Is how it shows up when you print the book out. So it's not super bright or noticeable as you're going through it. And lots of those pages with the multiple pictures in it. Yeah, definitely sent in the ebook copy to the 2 gals who walked the whole thing with us, and they loved all the details. They did a photo book, but there was more of just a bunch of pictures all in a book together, and so this way they really got to remember all the little details and the things that had happened. I do an online journal through penzu.com, and so each night I was writing in my journal, so it was easier to go back and just copy and paste out of my journal entry and add it. But I love all the ideas people shared. Here's one using the center blocks with words. Even when you resized the overlays, they didn't turn out bad looking at all on the larger pictures either. Probably the layout I didn't like. I didn't care for this one. I really struggled with what to put in the circles here, but in the end it turned out okay. Yeah. There's our finale, reaching our destination. So I loved how the center title block turned out there. Just a recap of how many kilometers and miles, and riding the bike, riding in a taxi, and riding on horseback. So that was a really fun recap at the end of it. And then the recovery phase, you could say, as we headed to the ocean to relax our feet after 500 miles on foot. And the one day I didn't have a lot of pictures, I used this journal card and blew it up, kind of like we're doing the editorial pages now, which I don't have access to on Android. It included all the text from the day since we did very little pictures since we were inside. But yep, love every bit of this. So thanks for following along. Bye.